Welcome to another episode of the Testudo Talk podcast. I'm Emmett Siegel alongside my co-host Andrew Chodes. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Evan. How are you?
Doing well. Excited for this episode. I think we got a good one. A lot of people are going to like.
Mhm.
Later in the episode, we'll be joined by Jamie Kaiser. For anyone who's not familiar with Jamie, he's going to be on the Maryland men's basketball team next year. He's a four-star recruit out of Northern Virginia. He's playing his final year of high school basketball down at IMG Academy in Florida. But he'll be with the Terps next year. So we talked to him kind of just about everything about his journey to Maryland, why he chose Maryland, what we can expect from him. I know I'm super excited, Andrew. I'm sure you share that sentiment.
Yeah, it was a great listen, great talk with Jamie. Definitely sounds really excited to come to College Park next year, and hope you guys enjoy what we had a chat with him about.
Absolutely, and we're gonna try and keep, especially over the summer, as maybe some of the sports wind down. Gonna try and keep some of this more interesting off-season coverage going for you guys. Keep everyone on their toes a bit, and remember to follow the podcast and everything. All like it, review
Yeah,
it, give us feedback.
yeah. No, hopefully some more interviews for you guys. We will be able to pump out through the summer. That's a goal. So we can hopefully get out to you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And as we get into the fall and football and everything, we'll have some good stuff for coming for you guys as well. Um, but there was some basketball news that we feel like we should talk about. Before we get into the interview, and we will in just a couple minutes. Ian Martinez, a guard from the team, last 2 years, was at Utah before. He entered the transfer portal kind of unexpectedly late last week. Andrew, what was your first reaction to it? I know mine. I was a bit surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised. I think that a lot of people were assuming for this upcoming season he could be someone that could possibly slide into a starting role at that shooting guard position, or if not, provide really meaningful minutes off the bench. I think we all know his outstanding perimeter defense, the energy he could provide. So again, I think a really shocking departure. I was definitely ta taken by surprise. But I mean, you covered the team last year. You saw Ian, saw his impact off the bench. Just what are your thoughts on this?
The biggest thing that always stood out to me about Ian's game is his athleticism. And
Huh.
it's hard, in the Big Ten to find these elite NBA level athletes in any conference in all of college basketball. It's hard to find a guy with the athleticism that Ian Martinez has, and for all the holes he may have had in his game that a lot of people maybe criticize him for, you can't deny that he provided a spark off the bench. And after his first year with the Terps, it was a tough year for him. I won't lie. He was pretty much ineffective completely offensively. He was also coming off a meniscus injury that forced him to miss the whole summer. He got hurt. He got knocked unconscious on the court. I did a story on him. Um, I don't know. Maybe I cursed him, but I did a story on him during the season and during this past season. And, we talked about his first year at Maryland. It was just hard for him to, get comfortable. He ran into a player's knee and was unconscious on the court, and that took him some time to come back from. And, he never really found his footing. But then in his second year, Kevin Willard comes in, I think establishes a style that fit him a lot better, a lot more like defensive oriented, like relying on that energy and getting out in transition and using that athleticism a bit. And I think we saw him blossom into a really good player. And I think he's definitely going to be missed next year.
Yeah, and Emmett, I think you mentioned how you wrote the story kind of on his life. And correct me if I'm wrong. Was he the first Costa Rican to play Division I basketball? Just is that correct?
I'm not sure he was the first Costa Rican to play Division One, but I think the classification was first Costa Rican to play like major
Okay.
Division One basketball. So definitely like setting an
Yeah.
example for some people back home.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he's a trailblazer, obviously an inspiration to a lot of people. You can read Emmett's story, but I think what was also very surprising to me is because this was the second time he transferred. I think that the rules state that he has to sit out a year of eligibility. So definitely add some more questions into the
Unless he
mix.
gets a waiver, of course, which
Unless he-
who knows these days.
But it's definitely something just to think about, right? If you're gonna transfer twice, with the back of your mind, know that there's a chance you might have to miss an extra year. There had to be some reason that we don't know why he decided to leave College Park, but the best of him wherever he decides to go. From all that I've heard from you, he's a great player on and off the court.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a great guy from my experiences. A really nice guy, but like you said, he probably gonna have to sit out another year. That definitely raises some questions about why he left. But I think in my estimation, what it kind of probably boiled down to was just that he's gonna be a senior next year, and you look at the roster, and Jameer Young's coming back. And then you got Deshaun Harris-Smith coming in, probably going to start at the 2. You look at Ian Martinez maybe, competing, like you said, for that starting spot at the 3, but then you bring in Jamie Kaiser, who, we'll get to his interview in a minute. That kind of was a contender to play in that similar role. And then Jordan Geronimo's coming in, who's kind of like a bigger Ian in that athleticism sense. So you just wonder, maybe Kevin Willard made it clear, or maybe just kind of alluded to the fact that maybe Ian wasn't going to get the minutes he wanted. As a senior, it's hard to blame someone for not wanting to take a huge step back, and kind of, he was probably, if we're looking at it realistically, he was probably going to play a very similar role to his junior year. And if he's a guy that has ambitions of playing professionally, playing in the NBA, and I don't think that's in the cards for him, but he's got a while to develop his game, especially in the offensive end. But if he's a guy who wants to make that happen, it's hard to do that from a sixth man role. And it was kind of shaping up like that might be what was in store for him in the winter.
Yeah, and I guess I'll pose this question to you. This is something that we've discussed, off the podcast. Now that Willard has an open scholarship position, do you think he tries to attack someone for the front court, a big man, or do you think he tries to kind of solidify that 3 spot, just in your opinion?
If I had to guess, I think he's going to go for big man. I think that's probably a much more pressing need. Let me just look at like the scholarship allocation right now, in the biggest hole I think that you can look at the roster and see is down low, and is
Mhm.
specifically providing a little bit of reprieve for Julian Reese. And, maybe Callum Swanton-Roger takes a big step. Maybe he provides that, off the bench big man presence that can give you a couple minutes a game when Reese either gets in foul trouble or needs a rest, whatever it may be, because you can't expect to, throw him out there for 40 minutes a game. But I don't know who's out there. There are plenty of players in the portal, but the question is there a guy who is better than what you're expecting to get out of Callum Swanton-Roger and maybe Braden Pierce, although I'm not sure he's going to play really at all in his freshman year. And
Yeah.
if you're betting on Callum Swanton-Roger to take that big step, that's a big gamble because he's an unproven guy. And, he had his moments. I think there's something there, but he's definitely unproven as a guy that, playing a major role on a team.
Well, and what I think we're trying to get at here for our listeners is I think next year's roster is going to be constructed really similar to last year's, where you're going to have an above, average size backcourt, but your front court's going to be undersized. And I think that, Will's going to kind of have to manage that in year 2. It's going to be a really, really similar roster to what we saw in a really, really a really good season for Kevin Willard's first year. But again, obviously looking to take that next step. Can they do that with a smaller size front court? I don't know.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like if Julian Reese evolves as a player and he like can shoot,
Oh,
then
well,
it negates a lot of your issues. Or if Julian Reese even takes that step forward, I mean, he was incredible down the stretch. He was an all Big Ten caliber player. I would say he went toe to toe and held his own, if not outplayed guys like Zach Edey. Um, some of the other big men like Trace Jackson Davis had a great game against Maryland in the regular season, but Julian Reese was holding his own out there. And same thing with Hunter Dickinson. We know Hunter Dickinson, he got dunked on by Callum Swanton-Roger, but that's like a little clip that like people love to share. But like, there's no doubt that like Callum held his own out there, and I'm not expecting him to do that for 35 games next year.
yeah.
But there's obviously something there. So it might not be like the most dire need of all time, for them to find a backup for Julian Reese. But if you're asking where, and I know this was like a question ago, but if you're asking where that scholarship's going to go, my guess is a big man. I'm just not sure who, because I'm not sure who's out there that is a huge upgrade over what you have, and B, going to come to Maryland. I mean, it's hard to sell. It's hard to sell a really good guy on being like a sixth man behind Julian Reese.
Yeah, no, absolutely no. Good points there. It's not really worth it to speculate. Again, like I think we've said in pods before, see how the roster shapes out. This is something you need to reevaluate in the next few months.
Definitely. I think right before we'll get to the interview in 1 minute, I think, you mentioned this to me. We should talk about this, the new offensive lineman coming into Maryland. Probably a spot that needs some shoring up. On the offensive line there, a lot of losses. Andrew,
Needs
I don't
might
know
be
if
an
you want to.
understatement of it. It is more than pressing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that When you looked at Maryland's roster coming into this season, you definitely look at the trenches as the place that needs to be replenished, and perhaps a little bit of replenishing happened. We're recording this Monday evening, so this will come out Tuesday morning. Michael Purcell coming in as a transfer to Maryland. Interesting story. It's going to be his 7th year of college football. He played at Elon, transferred to Duke in December, I believe, and then in April decided that Duke wasn't for him. And in the world that we live in of college sports, now he's going to play at Maryland in the fall. Um, Obviously we just mentioned it. They need offensive line help. Where do you think he fits in to next year's roster?
No, I mean, I think that the one thing you can never have enough of on an offensive line is depth. So at the worst, this provides some sort of depth, whether he starts or is a whatever a backup. It's a helpful need, I guess. But something Loxley mentioned a lot during his opening press conference was that he wants to have experience on both sides of the ball. So obviously, when you get someone that's played 7 years in college football, that's a ton of experience. And coming from Duke to go to Maryland, I think he's already warmed his heart with some Maryland fans. But again, I don't think there can be anything negative said about him. Again, we're only a few hours removed from the news. We haven't had enough time to really dive into him. But from what we know at the beginning, has experience, fulfills a need. So
Yeah. You're probably already going to see a couple transfers start on that offensive line. You're probably going to
yeah,
see,
yeah.
probably two guys in that starting offensive line at least that weren't with the program last year. And Colton Deary left for TCU, and like you said, depth is really the name of the game when you're talking about the offensive line. And to bring in a guy that, like you said, has a lot of veteran experience, maybe a steady presence in that room that experienced a lot of turnover and kind of lost probably two of its most vocal leaders in the offseason, Jalen Duncan and Spencer Anderson. Yeah, I don't think you can understate kind of how much it means to bring in a guy like that can kind of steady the ship.
Yeah, no, and I kind of want to circle back. You say it's not you don't just lose like Duncan and oh my god, Duncan and Anderson. You lose two, as we've seen, NFL caliber offensive linemen. Both of them got drafted. So this is going to be a unit that's going to will probably learn game to game, and they're going to struggle a lot. Probably, I mean, realistically, right? They're going to struggle once conference play starts. But all you could hope is that they give Talia enough time to get out of the pocket to scramble and make some plays, because as we've seen in the past 2-3 years against some of these high caliber Big Ten opponents, the defensive line, the rushers, they're just some of the best in the country. And to have a unit right now with a lot of transfers, it's gonna be a tough adjustment for Maryland, no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
the good thing about Maryland's schedule this upcoming years, the non-conference schedule is relatively weak. You
Uh,
should get a couple of weeks there, if nothing else, just to kind of like gel as a unit and kind of figure out each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then you can kind of take it from there as the season heats up. I think we should jump right into this interview with Jamie Kaiser. I think the people are really going to like it. Jamie's seems like a great guy. I've seen him play a bit in high school before he went down to Florida, and definitely the kind of guy that when he gets hot, there's no stopping him on the court. Like we said, he might start next year for the team as a freshman. Might have two freshmen in that starting lineup. It'll be interesting to see. We'll be all summer. Just speculation. That's pretty much what we're going to be doing. Just speculating this summer about the next moves for the team, and we'll see what they do with the last scholarship spot. But let's jump right into the interview. Here's Jamie Kaiser. Well, we are now joined by a special guest. We're joined by Jamie Kaiser, incoming freshman for the Maryland men's basketball team. Jamie, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
of course.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to kind of, start off with a pretty general question. I know you're down at IMG now, after playing at Ireton for a bit. How's it been down in Florida this past season?
It's been really good. The weather's really nice year round, especially in those like November to February months. I really liked it. But other than that, like it really helped me develop, I think, to get ready for college. So
Yeah, for sure, Jamie. And then, just kind of for Maryland fans, if you had to describe yourself, Jamie Kai's the player, Jamie Kai's the person, how do you describe yourself to Maryland fans?
I'd say I was like an energetic guy. I like to play hard. Um, I can make some shots. I like to play defense, but really just that type of energy that gets the building going. I feel like that's what I bring to a team and the school.
Right. And what was it about Maryland? You obviously went through the whole recruiting process, kind of wrapped that up, at least, most of it up, late last summer. What was it about Maryland and, Kevin Willard and what he's building that kind of attracted you and, led to you making that decision to come to College Park?
But I really just wanted to play right away. And when he gave me that opportunity, I was like, I really couldn't pass on it. Very few schools gave me that opportunity. And when he said it, I just jumped on right when he told me. And it just so happened to be so close to home. And I really appreciate that because if it was a school and like anywhere else, I still would have gone just because I would have been able to play right away. But just it being home just makes it that much more special. And I appreciate it a little bit more so I can play in front of my family and my friends.
Yeah, Jamie, you mentioned playing at home in front of your family and friends. Obviously, the incoming freshman class, it kind of bleeds DMV, and what does it kind of mean to play at a school like Maryland, in the DMV, close to your home, in front of your family and friends?
It means so much because then you can get a more pipeline of kids coming up, from the AAU teams in middle school and high school, and kind of be like an example of what could happen if you bring guys from the area to a school like Maryland and a Big Ten conference and stuff like that.
I've seen, you and some of the other incoming guys, Deshaun and Jonathan Lamoth and, Braden Pierce and stuff. You guys kind of talking on social media and stuff like that. What kind of relationship have you guys developed? I mean, I know that, you and Braden aren't on the same teams, but, you guys are at the same school and then the other two guys are from the area. What kind of prior relationship do you have with the other incoming freshmen?
Oh, I known Deshaun since I was like 12 years old, sixth grade, seventh grade. Played with him AAU, played with him in different middle school leagues and stuff like that. I'm outside right now playing pickup with my friends, and me and him used to do that all the time in the summertime, especially during COVID. And then with John, I played AAU with John since I was a freshman. So just getting that, it's just different type of relationship with each of them, but they're still good in their own way. But with John, he's a very unselfish player. Playing with him, I probably play way more games with him and understanding how he likes to play. And with Braden, yeah, I went to school with him this past year. And you get to see him on a daily basis, so you get to see kind of him grow as a player, and then you get to be around him as a person a little bit more than I would have with the other two, just because we're there every day, all day. So they're all different relationships, but I still think they're special, and they would help our team next year just because we know each other.
Yeah, Jamie, was there a particular point when you were in high school or AAU when you kind of had a feeling with some of those guys that we have a chance to play at the next level, with these players and friends, and then also to add on to that, a few weeks ago you played in the Capital Classic with some of those guys. What was that experience like?
Um, I'd say I think it came into a realization when I started getting those Power Five offers last year, like in the summer, and then realizing that they had the same ones and they had the same types of interests and what they wanted to do, and then we all ended up choosing Maryland. And as far as the Capital Classic, it was awesome. The fact that they put us all on the same team, I thought was pretty special, and we got to go through a practice with each other, play with each other, and I thought it was pretty cool. It was only 2 days, but I still think I got a lot out of it, just as far as knowing their games and how they like to play in mine, because we've grown since we played together. So
You were also a football player for a while. I know you were considering playing college football, and it seemed like your recruitment really kind of skyrocketed once you made that decision to play basketball. What what went into that decision to choose to focus on basketball, and where do you see yourself going in your basketball career? By the time it's over.
yeah, well, as far as my basketball career, my goal is just probably like every other kid is just to make it to the NBA and play as long as I can. But as far as that decision, it was a tricky one because I was going to commit to Maryland to play football when Coach Enos was still there, and Coach Loxley was obviously a great coach, a great recruiter. He gets kids every year. But I wanted to really try the basketball thing. I didn't know how Maryland was going to be in the picture because Willard had just gotten there. But once I told people that I was done playing football and I started playing basketball, like you said, this recruitment just picked up. It helped that I was playing well too. And then Maryland came into the picture, and then ultimately I decided to go with them. But I thought it was just a crazy situation because it happened so quickly, but it worked out for the best.
Yeah, one of your assets that we've seen is your ability to shoot the ball, shoot the 3-point ball. That's something that Maryland fans have kind of been longing for the past year or so. What do you think you can provide, especially on the perimeter when you hop into the lineup this next season?
Sorry. I'm a little bit more physical than people expect, so I can go to the basket. I feel like that's what opens up my three-pointer so much. Give myself open looks and just try to focus on my shot, stay disciplined, and knock it down. But I feel like on the perimeter, my best asset is defense because I get to use my bigger frame, and I feel like it fits the Big Ten pretty well. Those a bunch of guys on the wing are even bigger than me, so I feel like I fit in pretty well.
This will be my last question, but I asked you about what your relationship is with some of those other incoming guys in your specific class. But what kind of communication have you had with the guys that are coming back from last year's team that maybe you'll be playing alongside with this summer and in the winter?
Not much. I mean, I talked to Noah Bachelor a little bit because he went to IMG. We have the same coach and everything like that, and Jameer a little bit as far as him coming back and just being ready when I get in there. But other than that, haven't really talked to the guys coming back. It's such a crazy time right now, especially with the portal. You see like Martinez just left. You expect guys like that to come back. I feel like it's hard because you get so close to people and then they can end up leaving. You don't really know your team is until really the fall before the season starts. So I'm just going to tread lightly and just try to make the relationships that I can with the people that are there when I get there.
Yeah, Jamie, is there a current player on Maryland or any player of all time that you try to model your game after and you kind of aspire to be in that Maryland uniform?
Not specifically Maryland. I used to go to the games, a lot when Des Wells was there, and then I went to a couple when Kevin Herter was there. But as far as my overall game, I like to watch Devin Booker a lot. Same size, same type of play style, so I like to watch him a lot. But yeah, as far as the Maryland guys, I was definitely a big Des Wells fan back in the day.
Great. Well, Andrew, do you have one more? Or?
No, if you got anything, I mean,
No, I'm good, Jamie. This has been great. Really appreciate you coming on, and we're super excited to see what you do with the Terps.
Thank you.
thanks, Jamie.